Communication Workers Union. Dave, you've done this several times with me now. People are always interested in what you've got to say, but of course, particularly today, you are in the middle of an industrial dispute with Royal Mail, so lots of questions for you on that. But before we come to the calls, and if you do want to call, if you don't get through, keep trying, 0345 6060 973. Just outline for us what this dispute is about, what the employers have offered you, and why you think that's not acceptable.
Yeah, okay, good evening, Ian. Thanks for the opportunity. So, we believe that the dispute we're involved in now represents the biggest, most brutal attack on workers' jobs that this country has seen in decades. We also believe that if we were to accept the plans that the company are putting forward, it would be the end of a 500-year-old public service, the end of Royal Mail as we know it. And the only reason it's happening is because of gross financial mismanagement within the company. They made profits of £758 million, posted only back in May. And in a matter of weeks, they're saying that they've lost £1 million a day, or they're losing £1 million a day. I hope we get the opportunity to talk about that, because we can explain exactly some of the dreadful decisions that the board have made during that period. We have no doubt whatsoever that this is about turning Royal Mail, a great company, one of the most iconic British companies around, into just another parcel courier. That's what's at the root of this. Rather than compete with the advantage that they've got over every single other company, which is that they deliver to 32 million addresses every single day of the week. Remember, our members, posties across the UK, were hailed as key workers during the pandemic only just over a year ago. And, rather than compete on that basis, a natural advantage, which we believe most of these other companies would give their right arm to be able to have that sort of infrastructure, what they're doing is competing on the race to the bottom, as well as facing thousands upon thousands of jobs here, far more than the 10,000 that they announced. We know we're facing compulsory redundancies. They've written to the union.
Are they denying they're going to be compulsory
No,
redundancies?
they're not. No, they've written to the union in the last week saying that they want to consult with us on the criteria for compulsory redundancies. We're not going to do that. What they're actually doing is asking our members as well to start 3 hours later, up to 3 hours later. And we think that will destroy this company. It will destroy any opportunity the company's got.
Starting 3 hours later in the morning?
Yeah.
So people get deliveries later then, presumably?
Yeah, exactly.
Why would that be a good idea? I know you don't think it is, but just from their point of view, what's their justification?
Well, we can't work out what their justification is for it, other than they're not interested in delivering the universal service anymore. They think it's a burden. They've approached the government to reduce that. They are, but they've approached the government behind our backs to do that. And we know it's about them wanting a different type of company. They're competing on the race to the bottom. That's the only view they've got of the future. And, at the same time, I must make this point, at the same time that they are sacking and going to sack thousands upon thousands of posties in the UK, they're asking us to accept unlimited numbers of self-employed drivers to come in, new entrants to come in on 20% less pay terms and conditions, working 3.5 hours more than our members work in a week. And this is not to work alongside our members. This is to replace them. This is why we say this is what happened to P&O workers on steroids. It's completely unacceptable, completely unnecessary, and it's not the future of this service.
So basically, if I'm interpreting you correctly, what they're trying to do is become a new Hermes, or Every as it's called now.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it's all about. We've been warning about it for year after year. They sacked the previous CEO, who had the same plan. And there's all sorts of things going on in the boardroom here. This is also taking place against a background that we know the government have cleared a private equity investment group based in Luxembourg called Vesa to make a bid. We know that company are buying up shares. And we believe that the board, people on the board, including the CEO, are either in collusion with these people, or they're doing this in a way that they can hold on to their own positions so that they're saying, well, we're doing all the things
What's
you would
in it
do
for
anyway.
the government to do that?
Sorry?
What's in it for the government?
Well, the government carried out an investigation. After we wrote to Royal Mail a couple of months back now, quite a few months back, and we wrote to the Secretary of State because we heard that this may be going on. The following day, the government made a statement to the city, along with Royal Mail, made a statement to the city, and they confirmed that this private equity investment group had asked for the opportunity to make a bid to take over Royal Mail. And at that point, I think they've got about 24% of the shares. It's a Czech billionaire that runs the company. I don't know the guy. I'm not having a go at them in that sense. I'm just saying that that's the reality of what's going on
Daniel
in the background.
Kretinsky, is it?
It's Daniel Kretinsky. You know him well. He's a shareholder of West Ham
United.
Yeah. But that is going on in the background. So we also face an uncertain future because there is a strong view across the city that as the shares go down, this guy will make his move, and he's buying up millions and millions of pounds worth of shares as we speak. So that's all going on. So you don't even know the people who are putting these plans forward. They may not even be there, for all we know, in a matter of weeks. It's an appalling situation, and it's happening to one of the greatest companies in the UK. And people, your listeners, they know they're posties. Posties have a unique relationship. And what we're saying, Ian, is, this is not modernisation, by the way. We had a modernisation agreement. The company walked away from that. We've agreed the main thing they wanted, which is one parcel network, a modern parcel network. All we're saying is let our members be the people who deliver those parcels. Don't sack our members and bring in other workers to replace them.
I should say we invited Simon Thompson to come on the programme to debate with you tonight. He declined the opportunity. He has said he would come on in the past, but we've never actually managed to fix a date. But maybe that will change in the next few days. Who knows? But he's been saying some pretty out there things about you in the last couple of days, hasn't he?
I think he's been saying that for some time.
Maybe I've only just noticed.
You've only just noticed. He's saying things about our reps, our members. He's making allegations. Just before I came here tonight, the union received a letter from a lawyer, personally written to me by a lawyer, making allegations of racism, making allegations of sexism, unacceptable
against
behaviour.
you?
No, not against me. No, against alleged behaviour on the picket lines. And I'm saying to you tonight that we as a trade union, we have a strong public position against all forms of prejudice and discrimination. We are a union that engages with our members more, I would say, than any other union. We actually hold live Facebook sessions to explain our stance against all forms of discrimination. We're very strong in that area, and we've got a great track record of that. But it's no coincidence that these allegations have been made today after interviews that I've done in the last 48 hours where I've called out the company for using union-busting tactics. I've called out the managers for being intimidating towards our members. We've had a number of senior managers who have rung us, whistleblowers in effect, who have told us that the company are deliberately targeting reps and strong members who support the union.
Is that unusual in this kind of dispute?
It's not unusual if you know the reality of industrial disputes, and it's not unusual for emotions to be running very high. And there will be, I've no doubt about it. I'm aware of at least one incident where there was unacceptable behaviour and the guy was sacked. We don't condone any of that. What we're calling for, Ian, on this, because the company are acting in this way, we want an independent investigation. We're happy for that to look at all allegations around picket line offences, but we also want it to take into account the managerial behaviour that we're seeing. And, they're creating a toxic atmosphere in workplaces.
They say there are more than 100 allegations of incidents, including violence and harassment, during the 4 months of this industrial action, with 35 cases reported to the police. Do you dispute those figures?
I do dispute the fact that there are. I'm not saying they're not allegations. We've not seen them. What I'm saying to you is that we also know that a lot of those are being people who are being fitted up by the company deliberately because they're targeting our reps. And my answer to that is, well, let's have an independent investigation into it. Right. We said that to the company 2 or 3 weeks back.
Now, this is not the same kind of dispute as I think we're seeing in other sectors. Just outline, outline what you want from the employers, outline what they're offering you and why it's not good enough.
Okay, so what we want is a proper job security agreement. We want a commitment to no compulsory redundancies. We completely accept under our previous
no employer's
agreement,
ever going to give you that.
Well, we've got that agreement already at the moment, Ian. So, what we're saying to them, I'll be honest with you, we're saying that we're happy for that to be reviewed on an annual basis against agreed milestones of activity and of the changes that we may be prepared to agree. We've agreed that the company should move towards one new modern parcel network. That may mean some of our members work in different shift patterns. That may mean some of our members working in different locations. We're fine with that because we recognise that needs to happen. We want assurances from the company. We're asking for assurances that they're not going to turn this into a separate parcel company along the lines of what you said earlier on, another Every. We've said to the company we cannot accept under any circumstances that our members leave the business and are forced out of the business when they're replacing them with self-employed drivers, with new entrants on lower terms and conditions, and at the same time, whilst they're still retaining 11,000 agency workers. Now, what we're saying is that, we want them workers to all be treated the same. We're not against those workers. But we're saying that the company should have a priority list of how they manage redundancies. And what any other company would be doing would be laying off agency workers, would be not recruiting against jobs that are going. We believe that's potentially illegal. It's a very bitter dispute in that sense. On pay, we've actually said to the company, and I've said this on air many occasions, that they are saying they've offered 9% to our members. Our members have seen through that offer. What we've said is that if it was a genuine 9%, if it was up to about 400 million, which they're claiming over an 18-month period, that we could cut up in the right way, then we'd be close. If we could spend that £400 million properly on consolidated pay for our members, we'd be close. In recent weeks, I've done loads of interviews. You won't hear us going on there saying we're demanding this on pay. Our members deserve, like all other workers, an inflation, protection against the soaring inflation. We know that we're not going to get all of that, and we're prepared to be sensible about that. What's overtaken all of that is the attack on jobs of postal workers.
See, it seems to me,
and the attack on the service.
That there is, in the rail dispute, there seems to be a sort of edging closer together between the two sides. Or I may be imagining that. That's how I certainly perceive it. But here, I think there seems to be a bitterness between the two sides that there isn't in some of the other disputes. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would, because every time we go in the room, and our negotiating team go in the room, the company put more things on the table to attack us. They up the number of job losses. They start talking about outsourcing our engineering work, outsourcing our cleaners' work. They're just continually on the attack. This is why we're saying, we hope we can get this across to your listeners tonight. Postal workers don't want to be on strike at Christmas. But this is not just about this Christmas. This is about every Christmas. This is the end of Royal Mail as we know it. And unless we get support for this, unless we win this dispute in a way where we're up for modernisation, we'd signed up to an agreement on modernisation, 24/7 hour working. It was the union that came forward with those ideas. But we believe, what do we want? You asked us what we want. Most of all, what we want Royal Mail to recognise that actually they've got a fantastic workforce. they've got a competitive advantage of delivering to 32 million addresses. I'm saying to you tonight, can you imagine if Amazon had that delivery infrastructure in the UK? Might still try and treat workers in that way, but they would utilise that by developing innovative new products and services. And this company can still be very successful in the future.
Well, I was going to go to calls a few minutes ago, but I thought it was important that we covered all of that and you set out your stall. Before we go to a break, and we will come to your calls straight after the break, this is from an anonymous texter. Posties don't want to be on strike. We're tired and broke, but we love Royal Mail to its core, and we will stand on pickets and fight to defend this amazing public service with all our might. Solidarity and strength with our unions. Stand by your post. And I have to say that is very reflective of all the texts and tweets that are coming in. We'll come to your calls in a moment, 19 minutes past 8.
This is LBC.
Choose your MasterCard.
Text 84850. This is LBC.
22 minutes past 8 on LBC. We have Dave Ward from the Communication Workers Union with us. He's about to take your calls. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. You won't get through right now, but keep trying, because as one caller goes off, somebody else will come on. James is in Kennington. Hello, James.
Hello, Ian. Thanks for taking my call. Dave, it's great to hear you on the radio. I have a flower business, and I send about 25,000 boxes a year through Royal Mail, and the striking is killing our business. We're taking all of our orders when you're on strike to DHL. Now, you talk about 24/7 deliveries, and that's the one thing that's keeping me with your business. So what will it take to guarantee this new service for us?
James, the union has already agreed that we should operate a 24/7 network. It was us who went to the company and put that forward about 2-3 years ago. What the dispute is really about now is who's actually going to do that work. And we know that to compete in the future, Royal Mail's to continue to innovate, we would love to be able to do products and services that you could ring up at any point in time and have a tailored local service and do a deal with Royal Mail where on big days, like Mother's Day, Father's Day, special celebrations, where we could actually have postal workers locally who come to when you need them there. That's what we've been putting forward, local to locals services.
Well, we have a great guy. We have a great team down at New Kent Road, and Anthony comes and collects the boxes every day and sends them out. But because it's perishable, it's very, very difficult. We have a real fight on our hands to stay ahead when you're on strike. And I would love it if we could do a 24/7 service. The delivery rates are brilliant with Royal Mail when they're at work. It's a brilliant success rate there. Your click and drop technology is fantastic, and but it's a real difficult thing when you're on strike. And I hope you can resolve it soon.
James, we want nothing more than to resolve this dispute. Our members don't want to be on strike. We don't want to be on strike. We want an agreement, but at this point in time, I've got to say to you, the CEO is refusing to negotiate with the union. We've been to ACAS. We're trying everything possible. I've written to him the other day saying, come on, look, our responsibility, both of us, you and me, is to lead these negotiations and find a solution. I don't know any dispute that gets resolved without people continuing to talk and explore every possible way to resolve it.
I mean, formal exchanges of letters, always happen in these disputes, and they're often immediately released to the press on both sides. But are there no sort of, I suppose you can't, this is an impossible question that I'm asking now, but are there no sort of back channels that, do you not talk privately with even if it's not with Simon Thompson?
Well, there are some back channels, of course, and we're up for using all of those back channels. We always do that. Every dispute, you have people trying to talk. But Iain, we've put forward so many different ways of trying to resolve this. What you're dealing with here, I have to tell you about this. We got to a point a couple of weeks back, or a week or so ago now, where the company called us in and they said, look, we've had a listen to what you've got to say. We sent them, I think it was a 5-page document on how we could resolve all the issues in the dispute. And at that meeting, they said, the board are still not really sure about how you're trying to resolve it. So they've put this proposal forward. Basically, it's as good as we can get. We said that we couldn't accept that because it had all of the things in it that I spoke about earlier on. Owner drivers coming in, self-employed drivers, unrestricted numbers, replacing our members, new entrants, compulsory redundancies is on the cards, a service that we just don't believe is the right one for the public, starting 3 hours later. We're not going to do that. It's the wrong move for the business. And they said to us, is there any other way? This was in front of ACAS. And me and one of our senior negotiating teams said to them, well, we have got an alternative approach if you want. And they said, well, what is it? And I said, well, look, we've looked at your timelines for change and we believe there is an opportunity to agree what we can now. And that includes some big changes, the new parcel network, which was their one priority when we started out these talks that they wanted us to agree. We've agreed that. And they said to us, well, can you put an outline of what you're saying? We said, why don't we review, because we had about 3 or 4 months, why don't we go away and problem solve the approach? You put your ideas on the table, we put our ideas on the table, and we get an opportunity outside of the dispute to really talk it through and come up with the best structure for customers, the future of the company and our members. We put that to them. They asked me in a meeting, could you, that's got a lot of merit to it, and ACAS heard all of this, and they said, could you give us an outline proposal of that? Well, I went out, had a break, went over to the coffee shop outside their headquarters, phoned up my secretary, dictated literally on the phone an outline proposal of what we were saying, handed it to them because they wanted to take it to the board that evening. They requested it. The other day, Simon Thompson's on the telly waving it about. ACAS said it was private and confidential because it was an alternative approach to trying to resolve the dispute, which we believe our members would have supported. And he's on there saying this is the best the union can come up with. It is outrageous behaviour. And we deal on the basis of integrity. We deal on the basis of trying to find a resolution. We actually pride ourselves on being the conscience of the company and trying to develop new products and services. And they're treating our members in the way that I'm saying. And there's no integrity in, or honesty, or transparency.
They don't want to resolve it, do they?
I don't think they do. No, they keep saying they do, but then get in the room. If Simon Thompson's listening tonight, he listens to most of the things we say. He comes on our live Facebook sessions. He goads our members during the weekend. His behaviour is bizarre. It's unacceptable. I don't believe any CEO in the world would do some of the things that he's done to goad our members. He's playing with their mental health. It's outrageous.
Right, we'll go to, I promise we're going to get through more calls in the next quarter. 0345 6060 973. It's 8:30 on LBC. Darryl Jackson has the news headlines.
The Prime Minister says racism must be confronted, but wouldn't be drawn on the specifics of a row within Buckingham Palace. A black British charity boss claims a member of the royal household, who's since quit, repeatedly asked her where she really came from during an event with the Queen Consort. The SNP's Ian Blackford says it's right that a new leader in Westminster's chosen to take the party forward. He's been representing the Scottish National Party in London for more than 5 years. And it's been confirmed that Boris Johnson will stand again as an MP at the next general election. Conservatives have until Monday to tell the party if they'll be stepping down, but the association in his Uxbridge constituency says he will run. LBC weather: patchy rain and drizzle in the north continuing to weaken. A few showers in the far southeast and parts of the south coast. Otherwise dry. A low of 1 degree.
This is LBC.
Technology.
Dale on LBC.
8:33 on LBC. Dave Ward, leader of the Communication Workers Union, is with me taking your calls. Pat says, I'm a postie of 33 years. I don't want to be on strike, but this business is going to the wall. I love my job and it's an honour to work for this great Royal Mail. I worked in all functions and know what the job is all about. I will stay out as long as it takes, even if I struggle to get through Christmas. Postman Pat, he calls himself. Or she, maybe. Dave, that is a real issue here because you've got, is it 6 or 7 strike days scheduled for September? Now, people who go on strike don't get paid, so people are losing a hell of a lot of money, not just before Christmas, but during the cost of living crisis. Are Royal Mail effectively counting on your members not being able to afford to stay out on strike? I mean, I hesitate to say sort of starving people back to work, but that's almost what it looks like.
Yeah, I think that's definitely their tactic at the moment. I mean, this is probably the most difficult time for a worker to go on strike. We've never encountered strikes in these type of circumstances. So you've got 3 things going on really at the moment. You've got the reality of the cost of living crisis. You've got the fact that our members obviously are losing pay when they go on strike. And you've got the fact that it's coming up to Christmas and they'll be feeling that as well. What I'd say to you is that I've never seen a group of workers, so many of them, you're talking over 100,000, who are so determined and so angry about what's actually going on in the company. They know that this is an asset stripping agenda. They know it's a levelling down agenda. And, one of the things that really comes across, how much pride they have in delivering to the public. And this is what we keep saying, Ian. True modernisation.
Well, that's coming across on the text.
Yeah, true modernisation here would be using the greatest asset of the company, which is the very special relationship that they have with customers on the doorstep, and developing products and services for the future that could be locally based, could create real opportunities to grow local businesses, could create Royal Mail as almost a mini Amazon if it thought about it. There are so many things that the company could be doing, and it's refusing to do that. It's just going back to the same old playbook that all of these boards do. They compete on the lowest common denominator.
Right, let's go to more calls. Debbie's in Birmingham. Hello, Debbie.
Hi, Ian.
Hi.
Hi, Dave.
Hi there.
Hi. Yeah, well, I just wanted to say, I've spoken to many posties, and, I've always found them honest and hard-working people, and obviously you do build up the relationship. So I'm asking, I'm a member of the public, what can we do to, support our posties and to get this man out? Because my worry is that, something that's so iconic, Royal Mail, once it's gone, it's gone. And I don't want to see that. So I want to know what we can do as the public to support you, Dave.
Well, Debbie, first of all, appreciate your call and appreciate the fact that you recognise, like millions of other people, the role that postal workers have in society. They have a social value as well as, really sort of strong contributors to the UK economy. What can you do? I think show your support to your postal worker. I'm sure you're doing that. But write to Simon Thompson. Put it through the post as well, because it will keep the business going, and write to Simon Thompson and say that you want to see Royal Mail in the way it is, you want to see it innovating, and you want postal workers to have a job, and that you think that what he's proposing to bring in other workers to replace hard-working postal workers is outrageous, and get as many as your friends and family to do the same. Because this is, without doubt, the most bitter attack, brutal attack on hard-working people, decent people who have served the company, most of them for years and years and years. And I say to you now, Debbie, you can say it to any other member of the public who's listening, speak to your postie and they will tell you what's really going on in Royal Mail.
Debbie, thank you very much for that. I should have told you this ages ago, by the way, but if you haven't had enough of listening to Dave Ward, you can watch him now. We're on Global Player. We're also, believe it or not, Dave, we are a YouTube and TikTok sensation this evening. This show is being broadcast live on TikTok. Can you believe it?
Not really, no. No.
Right,
Don't ask me what it is.
No, me
because,
neither.
No,
Let's go to Paul, who's a first-time caller. Hello, Paul. You're in Birmingham. What would you like to say?
Hello, Ian. Dave, full disclosure, I am a senior representative of the Communication Workers Union. And what's prompted me to phone in this evening is this narrative that Royal Mail are trying to put around about all of this unruly behaviour on picket lines. I don't believe it's true. Anybody can make allegations and not produce a shred of evidence to support it. You know, there's no videos, anything that to support it. Our people are good working people who have got peaceful picket lines, and to try and brand them as thugs has absolutely incensed me. And I would just like to say that I'm representing about 10 cases where local reps have been suspended and are starting to be put through conduct procedures on the most jumped up charges that I've seen in all of the 40 years I've been a rep. And the whole strategy of Royal Mail has been to try and find any spurious excuse to suspend reps, to take them out of the workplace, to stop them being effective, to try and weaken the dispute. And for Royal Mail to be putting around that their employees are just sort of thugs without any evidence, I think it's the lowest of the low. And I'm absolutely furious, and that's why I've phoned in for the first time.
Dave?
Yeah, I mean, what Paul has said there is what we're getting reported right across the country, is what's happening. And what I said earlier on is we know that Royal Mail is using and has employed union busters and worker busting tactics. And we know that there's more to come. Managers have contacted us to say that if they speak out, they're threatened with a sack. Quite a lot of them have been sacked, we're told. They have daily calls. This is coming right from the top of the business, and it is about targeting decent trade union reps. It's about targeting members who support the union strongly in their workplaces. And they are some of the lowest level tactics that we've ever seen, even in bitter disputes. And we have been involved in a lot of disputes. We know that there's a team that Royal Mail have drawn together because we're being told exactly who's on that team. We even know, I'm not going to disclose that tonight because we're talking to our lawyers about it, but we know 3 other tactics that they're going to do to target us as individuals and to target the union over the next, week or two, probably starting from tomorrow. Can I also say, Ian, that this has come about when we've called out the behaviour of the CEO. This has come about when we've called out the union busting tactics. This wasn't put to us at any point below, and I do believe this has coincided with me coming on here tonight because obviously we advertised the fact that we're up for talking about the dispute tonight. And I received a letter about 2 hours before I headed over to see you tonight.
Dagenham Views is not very pleased. He says Iain Dale has been a 40-minute advert for a militant union that RT would be proud of. Literally no voice against this damaging strike, so typical of this once balanced station. Now another union rep, referring to Paul in Birmingham. Well, as I said at the beginning, we asked Simon Thompson to come on. He's very welcome to come on and put his side of things. But obviously, without him here, we're hearing the side from the trade union. And actually, in the media generally, I'm saying generally, I don't think that the trade union point of view is put forward enough. And I mean, Dave has been coming on for the last 2 years, and taking calls, and I think that's a great thing. People are happy. I encourage you, if you want to phone in and say you think this strike's appalling and that it's a militant union, be my guest. We're not censoring calls in any way. In fact, I would love to put a couple of those calls to Dave, and I'm sure he'd be quite capable of answering them. John is in Epsom. Hello, John.
Hi, how you doing?
All right, thank you. What would you like to say?
Hi, Dave. I'm a postie in Epsom, and I'm fully behind the CWU and what you're like standing up for us and like that against Royal Mail. My question is, with these strikes lasting up to the 23rd and 24th of December, if Royal Mail don't come back with any like deal that the CWU are going to be happy with, are we going to then strike into January, February, March next year? And if so, it's obviously having a hell of a impact on all of like our wages, all these strikes. I mean, I can imagine that some posties are just getting by and some are really like threatened with having to like resort to other tactics in getting like money to pay for their bills and mortgages and stuff like that.
Yeah, John, look, we recognise the predicament that you've got. We appreciate your continued support, and we are obviously trying to do everything we can to resolve the dispute. We would love nothing more for this to end as soon as possible, and the right way to do that is to negotiate a settlement. Royal Mail, though, have also got to basically stop attacking our members on a daily basis to create the right environment for negotiations. They've never wanted to do that throughout all of this. And, you know, we are committed to our members' jobs and defending our members' jobs. We're committed to the service, defending the service that Royal Mail
but
offers.
John's basically
So
asking how
my
long
point
this can
is,
go on
well,
for.
you know, I'm on record saying that we've got to sustain this as long as it takes. We cannot accept. I don't believe any union or any worker would accept what Royal Mail put in front of us.
Does your union pay strike pay at all?
No, we don't. We can't afford, unfortunately, to pay strike pay. So our members are really suffering at the moment. We're very conscious of that. We're looking at other ways
Is there any kind
of
of
dealing with
hardship
this.
fund or anything?
We have hardship funds, and our branches know that they can write in on behalf of individual members. Individual members can write in, and we look at those cases, and obviously we try and help everywhere we can. But we simply cannot afford to pay strike pay. So, yeah, people are suffering. And, you know, I mean, when we say we'll do whatever it takes and look at this as long as it goes, we'll have to be careful with the tactics. But we have members, you know, Ian, we have lots of members who write in and say, why not have an all-out strike? Honestly, we just think that the way the situation is at the moment, we've got to try and keep the public on our side. We believe the public are strongly on our side, but we want to resolve it. And, you know, the offers here tonight to Simon Thompson, come to the table and be willing to properly negotiate, and we'll resolve this dispute.
I could almost guarantee that Simon Thompson is listening to this. So I'm going to say to you, Simon, ring in. You've got my producer's email because I know they've been in touch with you today and over the past few weeks. Ring in, and if you don't want to talk to Dave live on air, fair enough, but I've got a few questions I'd like to put to you as a result of what Dave has said. And if you don't want to ring in tonight, just sort of come and do the same thing that Dave's doing, because we'll give you fair treatment. I'm not going to harangue anybody. I'm not known for that, I don't think, apart from I did harangue Mick Lynch once, but live to regret it, as does everyone. So don't think I'm unusual in that. Anyway, we'll have more calls with Dave Ward in the next couple of minutes. It's 8:46.
LBC. LBC with Iain Dale. Call 0345 6060 973.
It's 10 to 9 on LBC. Dave Ward is here, a leader of the Communication Workers Union. Now, we have had such a massive response, and I don't feel that we've taken enough calls so far. That's because Dave gives very long answers to questions. Just joking. So Dave is going to stay for the next hour too, because there are so many calls coming in. I haven't even read out a single text yet, and there are dozens of those as well, if not hundreds. So let's crack on with some more calls. David is in Camden Town. Hello, David.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
What would you like to ask?
Well, I'd like to ask Dave Ward regarding his wages. Is he losing money as we are?
Well, he's not on strike, is he?
Well, no,
No, but he's representing us, and Dave is obviously telling us to go on strike with you, which we will do. But also, I'd like to know if Dave Ward is losing money.
Yeah,
I know he represents us, but surely he must be.
So let me make it absolutely clear. I lose a day's pay every time our members go on strike. We wouldn't ask our members to go on strike if we didn't make the same contribution. Obviously, I'm my day's pay. You know, I get paid very well.
You're 10 grand a day, aren't you?
No. It's my equivalent of a day's pay, not what our members are losing. So look, I don't believe in making our members go on strike without making that a condition. All of our national officers, it's up to everybody. The employer can't force that. We're an employer as well. But let me assure you, David, that that's what we do. And as far as I know, all of our senior people who are involved in this dispute do the same.
Does that include staff of the CWU as well?
No, we don't ask our staff. I mean, don't forget, we also have lots of other disputes that are going on. So, we can't ask it of every single person who works for us, secretarial staff. We wouldn't do that. That would be wrong.
Are you happy, David?
Yeah, just one last question. Do you think this strike will be over as it's December, and obviously with Christmas coming up, surely we should be in a very strong position?
I think that Christmas is a double-edged sword to some extent, because I think that, there's a lot of pressure on our members at Christmas, as there is on the company. But it will be over when the company properly negotiate. And I will say this, I think the company should, remove Simon Thompson as the CEO. All of our members know what's going on in Royal Mail. They've had workplace meetings where there's been huge votes of no confidence in Simon Thompson and the board. And probably the quickest way to resolve this dispute is for him to stand down as the CEO and for us to actually go in and negotiate with a fresh team who believe in the future of the company. I actually think that it's time to change the governance structures in Royal Mail, and I think customers and postal workers themselves should be on the board of Royal Mail. And I believe that if we had a more representative structure that believed in the service, that we would make Royal Mail successful in the future.
The only people that can remove Simon Thompson are not you and your members, it's the board of the company. And I mean, obviously you presumably have relationships with the board of the company. They're the ones that would have to get rid of him. I mean, do you see any prospect of that happening?
Well, we did have relationships with the board of the company. We used to talk to the chair of the company regularly. The chair of the company knows that we've always had a good relationship. When there's been serious problems in the past, he's always come to us and we've delivered in terms of resolving issues. This time, for whatever reason, he's chose not to do that. But we are also talking to shareholders next week on the 6th of December. We've invited all of Royal Mail's major shareholders to a meeting where we'll explain the position from our point of view. We'll also put forward what we see as a solution, and more importantly, we'll put forward an alternative approach about the future of Royal Mail that would actually be in the interest of shareholders, providing they're looking for a long-term investment.
Right, let's move on to Janet in Chelmsford. Hello, Janet.
Hi.
Hello, what would you like to say?
Right. Firstly, I'd like to say to Dave Ward, I'm a retired OPG and I support the CWU
So
all the
what's
way.
an OPG?
It's a post person, but they called it an OPG.
All right,
Dave
okay.
probably explain to you what an
Operational
OPG is.
postal grade.
Okay, fine.
That's it.
Because we're not allowed to
Right.
say postman anymore, are we?
Right, my question to Dave is this. I've heard and seen on Facebook quite a few things where it's being said that management are telling the posties to prioritise the packages and leave the letters. Now, my question to Dave is this. Being a former OPG, that if I did that, which is what they would call willful delay of the King's Mail, does that not apply to management? Because that's not fair. If an OPG could get done for willful delay of the mail, either inclining a disciplinary, a 2-year serious, or potentially facing the sack. So if this is true to form, that management are telling posties to privatise the packages and leave the letters, why are they not being held over the coals and being done for willful delay of the mail?
Well, Janet, what you're saying is right. I'm glad you've raised that issue because we're getting reports, hundreds and hundreds of reports up and down the country, photos to go with it, of the amount of mail that's left in sorting offices. And what's actually happening as part of this is that the company are deliberately creating the quality of service failures because they're only interested in delivering the parcels. That's part of the strategy to play down letters in Royal Mail. And yes, postal workers, there was a charge that postal workers could face called willful delay of the mail. Managers up and down the country under instructions from the top are willfully delaying the mail, and they're refusing our members overtime in order to clear the mail because it's part of a punishment charter, and they are definitely deliberately trying to run down the company when it comes to delivering letters. And on this issue of delivering letters, can I just say, everybody knows that letters are in decline, but we've spoken to lots of economists and there's none of them that are predicting that letters will go completely. They'll go down and then they'll level out. There's still 6 or 7 million people in this country who rely on letter mail, and it's always going to be there. And yes, we have to capture parcel growth. We want to deliver parcels, but the company should be doing both, not prioritising one over the other.
Janet, thank you very much for that. A text here says, "Hi Dave, I'm a postie and fully support the strikes, but are you concerned that we get past Christmas with no agreement, that we then lose our leverage?"
No, I'm not concerned in that way because we want to get an agreement before Christmas.
But you see the logic of what he's saying.
I see the logic of what's being said, and that's a balance. I said that earlier on. There are some people who are saying we should go on all-out strike now. We haven't chosen that decision. At the end of the day, that's a matter for our executive, and we consult with our reps across the country about what is the best type of action to take. But I actually think that this is so serious that we've got to make sure that we don't burn out our members. And that we genuinely are in this for as long as it takes, and that's our view at the moment. So let's hope it doesn't take that long, because we're going to do everything we can to try and resolve this, hopefully in the next week. Our next strike is Friday the 9th of December, so we've got a window here of a week, and we should be able to make progress on this if the company return to the negotiating table.
Matt, a postie in East Sussex, says, what do you think about Royal Mail managers being offered bonuses to push through compulsory redundancies?
I think it's absolutely obscene. But
that's genuinely happening?
Yeah.
Even I'm shocked by that.
The managers have just been offered a deal that we estimate is worth, I think it's 50% on top of their annual bonus, which is 20% of their salaries, which for a lot of people will be £30,000 or £40,000, to implement and impose revisions that sack postal workers. That's happening.
See, when you said at the beginning that this is sort of worse than P&O, I was thinking to myself, I'm not so sure it is, but sort of a lot of the things that you've been saying are sort of maybe convincing me that there are parallels to be drawn here.
The scale of it is the same as what was happening in P&O. We had redundancy terms that were agreed with a company where, depending on length of service, we had a very good redundancy agreement. We're not denying that. It was for maximum service. I think it was over 30 years. You got up to 2 years pay, but that was tapered down depending on length of service. The company had come in and ripped up that agreement, and they've offered about 50% of that now to our members. And look, we know that there's a lot of our members who want to leave. They want to get out. The atmosphere is so toxic in the workplace, but these are loyal, hard-working people. If people go on voluntary redundancies, that's a matter for them. We're not against that at all. But not to have postal workers forced out of their job in the way that's happening at the moment.
Right, Dave is going to continue taking your calls for the next hour. There's so many coming in, and indeed texts and tweets as well. So do stay with us. 0345 6060 973 if you would like to talk to Dave between now and 10 o'clock. You're listening to LBC. I'm Iain Dale. It's 9 o'clock.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom, the monarchy is facing accusations of institutional racism following the treatment of a black British woman at Buckingham Palace. Lady Suzanne Hussey asked Ngozi Fulani where she really came from during a reception on Tuesday. She's since apologised and resigned. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak wouldn't be drawn on the details, but says it is right to point it out.
I have experienced racism in my life, but what I'm pleased to say is that some of the things that I experienced when I was a kid and a young person, I don't think would happen today, because our country's made incredible progress in tackling racism. But the job is never done, and that's why whenever we see it, we must confront it.
Meanwhile, Rishi Sunak's called it completely unacceptable that climate protesters are disrupting people's lives. The PM's met police chiefs and promised them more powers. Union leaders have warned they could try to achieve maximum impact with NHS strikes by taking coordinated action. Thousands of ambulance workers and nurses are due to walk out, while junior doctors will also be balloted next month. Antonia, a nurse in Hastings, has told LBC staff are now at breaking point.
We can't go on anymore. We are 47,000 nurses short. And even when we do recruit the nurses, it's really hard to retain them. And it's simply not a sustainable workforce. It doesn't feel stable, secure or safe anymore.
Ian Blackford has told LBC it's his idea to step down as the SNP's leader in Westminster following claims he'd jumped before he was pushed.
I'm really keen that we're able to have a discussion about the nuts and bolts as to what an independent Scotland would look like. That is something I'm so excited about. I'm delighted to take up that challenge. I can't do that and play the role as Westminster leader as well.
The MP says it's time for fresh leadership and won't seek re-election at the next week's AGM. SNP leader Nicola Sturgeon has paid tribute to his outstanding contribution. And Germany have gone out of the World Cup despite a dramatic 4-2 win against Costa Rica in their final group game. It's because Japan ended up topping Group E after coming back from a goal down to beat Spain 2-1. The Spanish go through to the last 16 as runners-up. In the city, the FTSE 100 has closed down 14 points at 75.58. The pound buys $1.23 and €1.16. LBC weather, patchy rain and drizzle in the north continuing to weaken tonight. A few showers in the far southeast and parts of the south coast. Otherwise, dry and a low of 1 degree. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Daryl Jackson.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Iain Dale.
4 minutes past 9 on LBC. It's Iain Dale here with you until 10. We have Dave Ward with us from the Communication Workers Union. We're making him do a bit of overtime today, but he's not getting paid extra because it's a strike day and he doesn't get paid on strike days. So slave labour
get overtime
today.
anyway, Iain.
No,
I wouldn't expect to get overtime.
I'm sure
it's a pleasure to be talking with you.
Right, 2 things before we go back to the calls. First of all, you have done an agreement with BT this week, I think. Now, have you been able to do that with them? Is it because they've got better management? They've been weak, or how does that work?
Well, that agreement came about as a result of 8 days of strike action. For the first 2 or 3 months of the dispute, the CEO there was refusing completely to negotiate with the union, had never even been in the room, or his senior team had been in the room with the union. But because of the determination of our members, and I think that we also met the shareholders, we actually met 16 of the major shareholders in the company and put our case. And lo and behold, within about a week or two after that, the negotiations started and we've reached an agreement. Now, it's not everything that we wanted. Some of our members have given us a bit of stick for it, but we believe it's right to put that deal to the members now. It's basically worth, over the period of the last year or so, it'll be £3,000 extra. There's an opportunity to open the deal up again or pay discussions again at the 18-month point. And there's also an opportunity for us to look at grading, which our negotiating team, who have done a very good job, expect to get more pay through a new grading structure as well. So we believe it's right now with that type of deal. That was purely a pay dispute, though, I must stress that, to put that deal to our members, and we're confident that our members will accept that deal.
Now, earlier you mentioned the fact that Royal Mail had announced £758 million of profits, and then suddenly they're now saying they're losing £1 million or more a day.
Yeah.
How can that be?
Well, this is the question we're asking. So this is true. £758 million profits were posted in May of this year for last year, record profits, and they're now losing over £1 million a day. Let me put 3 things forward which we believe are directly linked to that and are linked to the huge attack on jobs that's now taking place. The first thing is that knowing all of the forecasts about the economy, knowing all the forecasts that after the pandemic, the boom that we experienced on parcel growth during that period was going to fall off and decline a bit, although it will pick up again as the economy picks up. The board decided to give £567 million away to shareholders in dividends and buyback options.
So out of that 758 million, 567 went
million
to shareholders.
Secondly, they took a decision around about June time, knowing all the same things, to end the cross-subsidy with GLS, which is a company that Royal Mail own. It's their European parcel arm. They bought it. And what I've been saying to interviewers is that if this was the German post office, Deutsche Post, if this was La Poste, the French post office, they would be using that money, and they do use their money from acquisitions, to cross-subsidise their own postal services. The board of Royal Mail took a decision in June to end that cross-subsidy. That was to appease shareholders. It's to do, in our view, with what I was talking to you about earlier on, where there's potential takeover bids that may be imminent. And what that's meant is that, again, it's damaged the finances of the company. The third thing they've done was walk away from our modernisation agreement. They stalled the talks, and had they carried out the agreement that we made 18 months ago, which the chair and the CEO signed up to, then we would have already been on the road to modernisation, and we would have actually probably saved the company about £500 million in that process, because there would have been redundancies as a result of some of that, but they would have been done in a proper way. And what I'm saying to you is, if they're losing £1 million a day, it's a self-inflicted wound, and we believe it's part of an asset stripping agenda. That money, if you total that up, that's over £1 billion. They paid out record bonuses to the CEO and other financial officers of the company, who got bonuses because they hit their targets, and now they're losing £1 million a day. That would have sustained the company, that £1 billion, for nearly 3 years. We'd have been through, hopefully, any recession. The market would have picked up. They could have built on the infrastructure of the company. And what we're calling for is an investigation government investigation into the gross mismanagement of Royal Mail.
Right, let's go back to the calls. Gavin is in Preston. Hello, Gavin.
Hello, Ian. Hello,
Hi.
Dave. We're just on the picket line, Dave. So full support to you from our members on the picket line.
Hi,
I'm a
Gavin.
CWU rep for full disclosure. I just want to say that the arbitrary targets that Royal Mail are actually trying to impose on this union will result in approximately 25% of our hours to be removed out of this mail centre. And I think it's the same in the delivery officers. So these redundancies, while some people want to leave, will result in the stress and pressure being piled on the people that remain. And we'll end up with people leaving Royal Mail just basically through ill health for no reason but because the pressure's too difficult for them, so that they can then recruit people on cheaper terms and conditions and less pay. And that cannot be the right way for a company of this stature to behave or to actually treat its workforce. We don't want to strike. It's heartbreaking when you think about the mail in that mail centre, that we're not in there sorting it to get to our delivery colleagues so people can get the mail. But we've no alternative because the CEO will not speak. And I don't know what else the trade union can do if the CEO just walks away saying, that's it, we can no longer talk to you because that's our final offer. So I don't know what else we can do. We have tried our best, I think, to be reasonable. But like I said, Dave, we fully support what you're doing and you're worth every penny. So that's what I want to say.
Well, Gavin, sorry, I didn't get the mail centre that you work in.
Preston.
Oh, in Preston, right, yeah. So what Gavin's saying, this affects every single part of Royal Mail, every function of Royal Mail. These job number losses have increased over a period of time now, and every single office has been sent the number of job losses that affect their particular office. And I think that's what stunned our members, is I think they've seen the reality of it now, that we've been saying these proposals.
What are we
would
talking
lead
about
to.
in percentage terms on average?
Well, you can be talking 15, 20% of each unit. We believe that the job losses we're facing will be as much as 25,000. We've now seen the full plans of the company. They keep adding to those plans. It's almost like they're deliberately throwing the kitchen sink at people. And the point Gavin made, which is really heartbreaking, is that people who choose to leave is totally understandable. We support the right of any individual to take voluntary redundancy. We just wish it was under the terms that the union had agreed with the company, not the terms that they've ripped up, which is 50% less that people will be getting. But we understand why people may want to choose to leave. But what about the people that are left? And what Gavin said there is exactly the tactic. They want to impose revisions on the workers that are left. They know they won't be able to cope with the workload, and then more and more people are going to leave. And as our members leave, they are actively recruiting self-employed workers who will have to buy their own vans or lease their vans off of Royal Mail. They don't get any pension. They don't get any holiday pay, they don't get no sick pay, and they are actively recruiting other new entrants on 20% less pay and making them work 3 to 4 hours longer every week. That is an absolute disgrace.
You know what they say about you get one Gavin and two come along at once? Well, here's another one. Gavin is in Ipswich. Hello, Gavin.
I thought you was going to say Stacey's come along.
No, that would have been good, wouldn't it? Sorry, Gavin, go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Dave. Good evening. I'm phoning from Ipswich.
Hi, Gavin.
Good evening. Yes, I've been on the picket line today. I've been a regular attendee. The point I'd like to make is, as you know, we had two ballots. I think one for pay and one for the terms and conditions that we were standing up to defend. And I just wondered, as to try and break the deadlock, would it be possible just to do it, to park the terms and conditions and do a deal on pay? This side of the big day, to show good faith and hopefully come to an agreement on that.
Is that possible?
We've offered that, Gavin, to the company. Although the company have been insisting for months now that we needed to talk about pay and change together, we actually said to the company, OK, all right, let's talk about pay and change together. We have subsequently gone back to them and said, if you want to settle pay, which we believe we're not that far apart. We don't believe their offer at the moment is what they're saying it's worth, and I think our members have seen through that. But if it was, a significant offer, we don't believe that, it's going to be something that everybody's going to go, well, that's fantastic. But we would be prepared to settle the pay separately. The company are not interested in doing that.
Gavin, thank you very much for that. We'll take more of your calls in a minute. Still a full switchboard. Sorry if you can't get through. Do keep trying. It's 9:15.
This is LBC.
Now that the holiday
LBC with Iain Dale. Call 0345 6060 973.
18 minutes past 9. Dave Ward is here from the Communication Workers Union. A text here for you, Dave. Does the CWU not understand that the global economy is going into recession and massive pay rises without job cuts with a business making a loss does not add up?
Yeah, we understand that there's a recession coming. We understand that it's a serious situation. We want to work with the company to resolve these issues. We've agreed the key changes that they wanted initially, which is to set up a more efficient parcel network. What we're arguing about now, obviously, we want the best pay deal we can get for our members. And, I've already explained where we are on pay. But what's most worrying at the moment for us is that there won't be a Royal Mail under the plans that the company are putting forward. We believe they could ride out the recession. They've got a brilliant infrastructure and they should be building new products, new services to help grow the economy, which we're putting forward. And I'm sure there's other listeners here who could think of services that Royal Mail could do. Do you know that Royal Mail If the government want to write a letter to the nation, Royal Mail can get that letter to 32 million addresses within 5 hours of the government handing it over to them. It's an astonishing infrastructure. Why try and shrink to greatness? You can't do that. You've got to keep that infrastructure and build on it.
Right, let's go to Liam in Wolverhampton. Hello, Liam.
Hello, it's Lee, actually.
Is it?
Lee.
Someone's head will roll compulsorily. Go on, Liam. What would you like to ask?
Well, basically, I want to know Dave's thoughts on Unite, the union Unite, who are for the managers, because I think their behaviour towards CWU members recently have been appalling. And I know they've done a statement today addressing this, but I just want to know Dave's thoughts on all this, because they're supposed to be of a protocol to support each other's unions, and that hasn't been happening. I just want to know Dave's thoughts on that.
Well, look, first of all, let me say that Sharon Graham, the General Secretary of Unite, I'm very supportive of Sharon's agenda. I think her agenda in terms of fighting for people in terms of pay terms and conditions and standing up to employers is as good as what we've seen for many, many years. We want to work with Unite, but Unite represents the managers in Royal Mail. And obviously,
which is bizarre in a sense.
It's an old,
from the outside.
Yeah, it's something that goes back to a merger that took place many, many years back. And we know, to be honest with you, Lee, we know that it's difficult if you represent managers, because those managers, look, we think that some of the things that are going on are outrageous. We also know there's loads of managers who support what we're doing, but they're under immense pressure. I believe they're being intimidated. They face the sack themselves. What we didn't like was that section had signed up to this joint statement about the bonuses if they impose the revisions that remove our members' jobs. Once Sharon Graham was aware of that, and there was a bit of miscommunication, I think, between myself and Sharon.
Which is ironic for the Communications Workers Union
well,
and
that
the
was both
Communications
sides.
Managers Association not to be able to communicate with each other.
So once that was aware, we're pleased that Sharon has taken the action that she's done today. We didn't doubt that once she became aware of the facts that she would do that. What we'd also say, though, is that actually, if there's managers out there who care about the future of Royal Mail, you should be supporting the CWU now. You should be supporting your fellow workers, and actually you should be balloting for strike action, because what the company are going to do is destroy Royal Mail as we know it.
Next time you speak to Sharon, you might like to say, do you want to go on Iain Dale's programme? We've been trying to tempt her on. But
I thought she'd been on it.
Well, she came on to do the hustings with Gerard Coyne, but not since she's actually been General Secretary, so we'd love to have her on. Lee, thank you very much indeed for that. Let's go to Tom in Watford. Hello, Tom.
Hi, Ian, you all right?
Hi, what would you like to say?
I just want to raise a couple of points, and I wanted to just know the legality of this. So agency workers are currently in our office. We've got about 20 at the minute, and they're getting the option of overtime. They're coming in working postmen's rest days over us. They're on obviously more money than us. So I don't know how the company are screaming poverty when they're paying agency workers £25 an hour for something we'll do for £13 an hour. And obviously I just want to know, is that not illegal? Is there not a case against that? I also want to know if, Dave, if you think that if all the unions go out together, which I think should happen and will happen, do you think the government will finally step in and do what's right for the workers they claim to represent? And another thing, I just want to raise one more thing. I just want to let everyone know, all the listeners listening, I just want to say, everyone who hasn't been through this, stay with the union, stay with Dave. They're doing the right thing. Get on the picket line and just support us. Don't go into work if you can really afford not to. Just stay with it. It's a long fight, but we are all in this together. And that's all I want to say, really.
Tom, thank you.
Yeah, Tom, thanks for that contribution. Agency workers, I mean, what you're saying there is what we know to be true. So we believe that Royal Mail have been increasing the numbers of agency workers, not because of Christmas. They've been increasing it as part of a casualisation of the workforce. It's wrong in the way, not against those agency workers. our commitment, we've actually recruited some agency workers into the union. We want agency workers to have proper jobs, proper terms and conditions. Is it illegal? I think it can be, but there are so many loopholes in the law. We talk to lawyers about it. There are ways that they can do this, unfortunately, that end up, punishing, I suppose, not the workers themselves, the agency workers, but the company. It's about punishing your loyal workers, and that's why they're doing it. And what we're saying about the redundancy situation, with the amount of jobs when we're facing compulsory redundancies as well, is surely the right thing to do is to lay off the agency workers, not to recruit unlimited numbers of self-employed workers and new entrants. You don't do that. You wait and see what jobs are available, and you offer that to redeploy your existing workforce who want to stay working in a job for Royal Mail. The company are refusing to do that prioritisation, and that's one of the reasons why we can never accept their deal, as they call it. You basically said, do I think that all workers should stand together? I think they call that a general strike. I tell you where we are. Every single
Last
union.
time you came on here, you were kind of advocating.
Well, let me go through it again then. So every union has to focus on their own dispute. That is the number one priority of every single trade union. But like you, I believe in worker solidarity. Providing we focus on our own dispute and try and resolve that, I am supportive of forms of collective action for trade union workers everywhere, because I've never known a time when workers are under so much pressure. I think I've said this on your show before, Ian. I've got a daughter who works in the NHS, midwife. I've got a daughter who's a teacher. I've got a daughter who works in the police force. And I've got to say, I talk to them all, and they are really struggling. What has happened in society at the moment is that workers are always being told they've got to modernise, but modernisation means one thing: working harder and faster for less. And it's destroying our services, our public services. So, I believe it is time for workers in this country to come together, even workers who are not in unions, to come together and get out there protesting. We need a new deal for working people in this country that's about the race to the top. That's the only way you're going to grow the economy. And I believe we should be participating in forms of collective action across the UK. But our priority will be to resolve the dispute that we're in with our members at the moment.
Tom, thank you for that. Let's go to Omar in Worcester Park. Omar, hi.
Yes, hello, both of you. It's the first time I've ever been on LBC. I'm quite a young person, but I had to get on this debate.
Welcome.
Hello, Dave.
Hi, Omar.
You're doing great. I've been following you the whole way. Listen, I've been here 10 years, and I've got 3 kids, basically, and I'm like, give me the rope, mate. It's one of them ones. Like, I took this job on because my missus works from 3 o'clock till 6 as well, so I look after the kids from 3 till 6. And now, like, it's just what do I do?
Yeah, I think, Omar, you're talking about you took the job on, and with your wife working, you've got kind of a work-life balance between both of you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
I was doing a lot of overtime as well, Dave, but they've stopped that as well now. They've stopped my overtime. I was doing X amount of overtime, and I haven't done overtime for 4 months now because of what's...
Yeah. And what you're also referring to is one of the proposals that the company are putting in front of us is that they want us to accept that up to 3 hours later start times and finish times. And we're saying that is completely the wrong way to go about building your business. It means they vacate the AM delivery period. It means they give away the advantage that they've got. And we just can't accept those sort of proposals. It will destroy any opportunity that this business has to grow new products and services. And, I think if there's anybody out there who runs some of these businesses that compete with Royal Mail, they will fill that gap once Royal Mail vacate that position.
Okay, let's just do a quick text before we go to the news, which I should have lined up and I haven't. Avid listener says, can you ask Dave Ward how long he intends to ask us to carry on with these strikes, as financially it's draining and depressing. At least we could be reimbursed 1 week statutory pay just to keep some of us going.
Well, look, what we're saying is we want the agreement. We don't want it to go on a day longer, and we're doing everything possible to find the resolution. But at the same time, we cannot accept, and I'd ask any of our members who are out there who are struggling, and we know they are, to recognise, which I think the vast majority of them do, that the situation we're in is almost impossible at the moment. What alternative have we got? If we stop the strike action, the company are going to carry on imposing the change. They are going to destroy our members' jobs and the services. If there's another way that anybody's got an idea on how you solve this, we're open to those suggestions.
And you've got half an hour to come up with it and phone in. Unfortunately, you may not get through. I can't remember a phone in where we've had so many calls right throughout the hour and a half now. As soon as one call drops off, another one replaces it. It's 9:30. Dave is with us here until 10. Let's get the latest LBC News headlines from Daryl Jackson.
The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, says racism must be confronted, admitting to having experienced it in the past, but wouldn't be drawn on the specific row within Buckingham Palace. A senior aide, who's Prince William's godmother and who has now quit, allegedly asked a black British event guest repeatedly where she really came from. Police could be given more powers to crack down on disruptive protests like the ones by climate activists Just Stop Oil. The Prime Minister says officers have his full support. And Germany's suffered a shock exit in the group stages of the World Cup. The Germans beat Costa Rica 4-2 in their final game, but Japan's surprise 2-1 victory over Spain sent them out. LBC weather: patchy rain and drizzle in the north continuing to weaken. A few showers in the far southeast and parts of the south coast. Otherwise, mainly dry. Lows of 1 degree.
This is LBC.
I'm James O'Brien.
Britain's conversation. Iain Dale. Tweet at LBC.
9:35 on LBC. Dave Ward is here from the Communication Workers Union. Alan says, can you ask Dave about how the front bench of the Labour Party doesn't fight harder for them while the CWU financially back them?
Is that Alan Johnson? Look, we affiliate to the Labour Party. We've had this debate on many occasions. I think our members will want to have that debate again. Once we have the opportunity to debate it at our conference, I'm sure there'll be motions coming in that will ask us to disaffiliate from the Labour Party. The way that we look at this is that, we know there are lots of really good Labour MPs who do stand up for posties up and down the UK, but we would like the Labour leadership to do more. I'm sure it's not just us saying that. I think it's every trade union and every worker in the country.
The Shadow Business Secretary, Johnny Reynolds, he's a sensible kind of guy. What's he said about the dispute?
Well, actually, Johnny Reynolds issued a statement the other day saying that Labour is now calling for a government inquiry and investigation into the actions of the management and into the future of the universal service, because they believe clearly that what's going on is wrong. So we were pleased to see that, and we hope that the government pick up that opportunity to look at this company. They should be doing that, because ultimately the universal service that we deliver 6 days a week is in legislation, that we deliver the same price, goes anywhere service. It's the only one of its type left in the world, I think, in that sense, or it's certainly the best one. And it's an obligation that the company have. The company don't want to deliver it anymore because they see it as a burden.
Let's go to Adrian in Hertford. Hello, Adrian.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
Perfect. Good evening, Dave. I've been a business customer with Royal Mail for the last 5-6 years, which has been great. We love working with Royal Mail. But recently with the strikes, Black Friday, huge volume of parcels. My question today will be how Royal Mail will recover the delays. Currently, the delays are huge in the system, and I do talk about premium services like Truck 24, Truck 48, guaranteed deliveries are pretty much stuck for 10, 14 days in the system. So this is already affecting our business. We deal with lots of upset customers, and it's getting more difficult.
So, Adrian, first of all, I do understand the dilemma that you face. The company is saying to us that there's no delays in the mail. We're seeing cages and Yorks with full of parcels and packets. Yorks are containers,
right?
That they move. They move the.
I'm not up with the lingo.
No, they move the packets and the parcels around. They're in all of the offices. We're showing photos of it. They're in denial of that, and they're actually saying that they're up to speed with where they are. And they are denying our members the opportunity for overtime because they've taken a view that our members need to be punished because they're going on strike. And you've heard that from some of our posties who have rung in tonight. So how do they get it back on track? They get it back on track by resolving the dispute. And because you're a customer, surely the CEO, it's right that you're holding me to account and that Iain holds the union to account, but somebody needs to hold the CEO and the board to account because they could resolve this dispute. They know that. If they was genuinely acting in the interest of customers and the future of the company, then they would be doing that rather than delaying your mail any more than it needs to be.
There's also a rule which I know because I run a little book business, and if I want to send something that's over 2 kilograms, I can't take it to my local post office. It has to go to the main post office in another town. You think, well, that's just driving me to use another courier.
Well, one of the things that Royal Mail want to introduce and have introduced, and we support it completely, is that our members can actually collect from you. You can phone up and you can collect
No, I'm having to deliver it to my local village post office, but they're not allowed to take it.
And what I'm saying is that, well, Royal Mail and the post office are separated now. It's the only part of any postal structure across the world where the retail arm has been separated deliberately from the Royal Mail side of it. So they're not the same company anymore. And the people who've done that, Ian, was your Tory party. They brought the legislation in.
I think you'll find
separated that.
I think you'll find it was Vince Cable from the Liberal Democrats.
Actually,
who did that.
in a coalition with your people.
Yeah, but he was in charge, so let's blame him.
Actually, Vince Cable has contacted us and saying he completely supports postal workers.
Easy for him to say now.
Exactly. Let's hope he gets out there and says it a bit more publicly.
Well, he should come and speak at your rally.
We'll offer him the
right,
opportunity.
Let's go to Sam in Cambridge. Adrian, thank you for that. Sam, hello. What would you like to say?
Hi, I'm a postie near Cambridge. Last week we were given an example of what the future looks like. So say 5 people working in an area, and that's going to become 4. Now, currently on a quiet day, I walk 10.5 miles and can just about get done within my hours. But on a busy day, I'm doing 11.5 miles, and I go over by 1 to 1.5 hours. This is obviously going to increase when I take on another 2.5 miles to absorb the share from the 5th person who's no longer there. My question is, do the shareholders understand how much the business depends on goodwill and overtime to complete the job as it is, and how burnt out the future changes will make already overworked staff?
Sam, they don't understand that, and we've never spoke before. You're clearly a postal worker who's experienced in all the things that we've been talking about. How about you contact us over the next couple of days, and you come on and you speak to the shareholders when we hold our meeting on the 6th of December. If we can find some way that you can do that, I think it's about 2:00 in the afternoon. You'll probably still be out walking all those miles. But you make a great point. What I'd say to you, though, is that in the end, they don't want you doing any of that because they're only interested in delivering parcels, and they want to bring in other people in to replace you.
Here's a better idea. See, I'm good at communications. What you should do is get Sam to record a video at the end of her 10-mile walk each day and say, you really want me to do another 2.5 miles?
Well, that's another thing. We'll have to take Sam up on that and do that, and I'm sure she would do that.
Because the end of my walk is actually quite a few blocks of flats. So by the end of my walk, I'm shattered.
But fit?
Yeah.
So the point you make,
I don't normally call callers fit, but there we go.
Sam, the point you make, we know and you know that that's what all postal workers are saying. They are working harder than ever. And what everybody's saying is how on earth, when they remove all of these jobs from the industry, are we going to cope? And I'm saying to you, Sam, it's not about you coping anymore. It's about us failing so that they can make the further changes that they want to make.
Right,
Yeah.
Sam, thank you very much for that. Let's go to Adamil, who is in Clapham. Adamil, hello, what would you like to say?
Hi, good evening. Hello, Dave. I am a parcel force worker, yeah? And one of the things worrying me is that Royal Mail want to make a deal, but parcel force is not taken into that deal. So I want to be sure, or you clarify to me what is going to happen to us, to parcel force workers.
Yeah, so Adamil works for Parcel Force, that is part of the Royal Mail Group. It's just a different brand. It delivers parcels, tend to be delivering some of them oversized parcels that you're trying to take down to the village post office. It's got a fairly unique infrastructure. And Adamil, what we want to do is to bring Parcel Force and Royal Mail Group together with one network. That's what the company wants to do. What we're insisting is that we harmonise the terms and conditions, so Parcel Force workers don't get quite the same level of pay. They get other conditions, but we want to harmonise and level up. That's actually one area where we're agreed on. The problem is you're probably a contracted Parcel Force worker, but what they want to do as well is bring in unlimited numbers of self-employed drivers, and our fear is that they'll end up replacing you and thousands of our other members, and that's what we can't accept.
Adamil, thank you very much indeed. We have 15 more minutes in the company of Dave Ward from the Communication Workers Union. 0345 6060 973. You're listening to LBC. I'm Iain Dale. It's 9:45.
Coming up at 10 on LBC, Ian Payne.
The Prime Minister said tonight we've made tremendous progress in this country tackling racism. Do you agree?
Ian Payne on LBC. On LBC, text 84850.
9:48. Let's go to Ahmed in Newham. Ahmed, what would you like to say?
Evening or night time. How evening there, Dave?
Evening.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, mate, I feel like you're doing a great job on that, but I wanted to just add to everything that has been said by a lot of posts. I'm a postman myself, so what I would just like to say is even the manager, Royal Mail, is intimidating our own staff on a daily basis. The stuff that goes on, like Royal Mail sending letters of termination to people that started in the last 2 years and stuff, like just at this time to make them feel the pressure of, no, you got to come in, stuff like these things. Also stuff like, deducting pay when we didn't even strike on those weeks, and then making it difficult to get through to the HR line because it's closed to get that pay back. And so many little, like, they don't care about letters. This is on a daily basis. I just want the public to know themselves. On a daily basis, Royal Mail don't care themselves. Even though we want to do the work, they don't want us to do the work. For whatever reasons that they have, they're making the public suffer more than ever. And you know what? It's really sad to see Royal Mail's name get put to the ground like this. I've been in the company 10 years, and it's been an amazing company until it got sold off, mate. It's just things have just been going downhill from there. And I think Dave's right. They've had these things in plan for a long, long time. And just generally, I mean, I don't know, everyone's struggling, and it's just, I feel like Royal Mail, they could have easily resolved it, but also at the same time saying that they not allowing, like stuff like we never used to take breaks, or examples like that. We never used to take breaks. We worked through our breaks. But now, because of the way they are being, people are feeling like they have to work the way the job's laid out. Because if they don't, the manager stands there watching them, intimidating them and stuff like that, mate. It's just an ongoing thing. And, people are just, if anything, they're not saying that their side of what they're doing to the staff. They're just trying to make it out, people are in picket lines, this and that. But the truth is really what they're doing every day when we do go to work. On top of that, mate, I would like to also add the staff that they are bringing in, they're not even trained. When I go back to my walk on the next day after strike days, people are telling me, well, I haven't received this, I haven't received that. There's so many things that are going missing. And I just think, it's the agency stuff, what can I do? And it's just, mate, I don't know what else to say.
Ahmed, thank you for that. So what can be done on an individual workplace basis? How can Ahmed and his colleagues react against that?
Well, what Ahmed's saying there is the experience that thousands and thousands of postal workers are having on a daily basis. And, I've heard this said by our own members. They're actually seeing the strike days as a relief from what's going on every single day of the week. When our members come back to work after a strike, this is different to most other businesses. Obviously the railway workers, when they come back, they get on a train and that train goes down the same line where it's been. With our members, they're coming back to an atmosphere that is deliberately being orchestrated by union busters at the top of the company. We know who they are. One of them has got a reputation for that in other companies. We know they're bullying managers, and we know what they're putting together is a punishment charter for our members every day of the week. Our members are threatened if they bring work back at the end of their shift and they haven't finished. There's no overtime being offered. They're threatened with a sack on a daily basis. They're pushed around from one part of the workplace to another on a daily basis. And they're using technology, and this is one of the things they want us to agree, they're using technology that can micromanage our members every single minute of the day. And we're saying that's not on. The way they want to do that in exactly the same way that Amazon use technology. These are the things that are happening, Ian, and Ahmed is only one of thousands that will tell you exactly the same. And they got the cheek to come on and do this where they're saying that our members are making allegations. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't in a bit of dispute going to be bad behaviour. There's bound to have been some of that. But I just wish, and I come back to the point, if it's any satisfaction, Ahmed, on the point you've made, we're calling for an independent investigation into the manager's behaviour, the union busting that's going on, and most of all, the CEO's behaviour, because he goes on his social media platform day in, day out, even at weekends, goading our members. If people looked at that, they will see that that is a psychological attack that he's launched on his own workers. And, I believe that any decent board, if they looked at that, and we're compiling a dossier of all of his posts, he does bizarre videos where he comes on and basically has a go at the union all the time. But he says things in a way that he's trying to get inside the heads of our members. And he's playing with people's mental health in that sense. It sounds
as if he's got inside your head a bit.
No, what's got inside my head is I support postal workers. So I'm a voice of 115,000 postal workers. It is water off a duck's back to me dealing with CEOs. I've dealt with so many of them over the years. But it is heartbreaking to see and watch these guys doing this deliberately to demoralise our members. That is wrong. And, I've got to say that's why our members had workplace meetings and voted pretty much unanimously that they've got a vote of no confidence in the CEO and the board. And you will know that if you want to make a company like Royal Mail successful, you cannot have people at the top. And most of these have only come in the last 18 months.
And I'll tell you, all of the successful companies in this country
get on with their workers.
They have a managing director, chief executive, call them what you will, who is a leadership figure, somebody who you actually want to work for. You think, well, he knows what he's doing or she knows what she's doing. I'm fully behind them. But here we don't have that at all, do we?
Well, we don't have it. Our members are voting with their feet on that. And more than that, I think they are recognising that they've led us into this crisis, the CEO and the board, by their decisions, which we spoke about earlier on. And they're real decisions that have been taken. And we have no confidence whatsoever that they're going to lead us out of it.
Right, let's go. Ahmed, thank you very much for that. You've got some very supportive texts and tweets, by the way, you should know. Daniel is in Southend. Hello, Daniel.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, what would you like to say?
Hi. I don't know. I'm kind of surprised myself. I'm on air and talking about this. I'm normally keep things myself. But I work for Royal Mail and then I'm struggling with mental health quite a long time. But I was kind of coping one day, and one day night I'm taking tablets and things like that. But lately, since this pressure come on, it's absolutely, like everyone's kind of, I can see the friends and the other postmen, and I see the videos on YouTube or, social media. Everyone's kind of struggling with, in a touch with mental health. And this is really affecting it, at the same time with financial struggles and mental health struggles. I'm really, really worried and scared, because this kind of thing is pushing people to the edge. And I want this dispute to be, sorted out and for everyone's sake, I'm supporting my union and all the way. They're doing a fantastic job. But people out there struggling with mental health, please speak up, with your friends and get help. Ring the helpline. Don't just stay on the silent because it's really important. I'm still surprised myself talking on the phone live on air.
You know what? I'm glad we've managed to fit you in, Daniel, because I think this is actually one of the most important calls we've had tonight, because whenever there's an industrial dispute, there are always people who want to brave it out, don't talk about it, and that can have some tragic consequences sometimes, Dave.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, Daniel knows that we're trying to do everything possible. I keep saying that, but we really are. But what he's referred to is some of the videos that the CEO puts on. I mean, this is a guy who goes on Sundays and goads our members. I'd urge anyone independent who investigates these sort of things to look at what he's actually doing. And I believe, along with our members, that one of the routes to solving this problem is that the CEO is not a fit and proper person to be running a great company like Royal Mail. It's not about him as an individual. He's waging war on our members, and he's brought in a group of managers, a handful of them who he clearly knows from other companies, and they're turning this into the most toxic dispute that's been in this country for decades.
Dave, we could go on for another hour because there's still lots of calls coming in, but we're going to have to finish. I know you've been up since, what was it, 4 o'clock you were telling me?
4:30.
Yeah, well, we will release you now. Thank you so much. It's been a fascinating 2 hours, and I think you've given a really interesting insight into the dispute and also where the union stands. That's Dave Ward, General Secretary of the Communication Workers Union. Well, thanks for all of your calls, text, tweets and Alexa messages tonight. Next week, I'll be joined on the panel for Cross Question by the Lib Dem Deputy Leader Daisy Hart and former Love Island contestant Amy Hart. Yes, you did hear that right. If you've missed any of tonight's show, you can listen back via Catch Up on Global Player. Coming up at 1 on LBC, it's Darren Adam. But first, here's Ian Payne.
Thanks, Ian. Evening all. The Prime Minister was asked about the royal racism row this evening. Rishi Sunak said, "We've made tremendous progress since he was a child growing up here when he received abuse." The fallout from Tuesday's infamous Buckingham Palace encounter when a black charity boss was repeatedly asked where she was really from has continued today. It threatened to overshadow the Prince and Princess of Wales trip to Boston, and it came on the day that Netflix released a trailer for the forthcoming